I, Sven Weber, hereby call this meeting to order and start with the roll call, as we have at least, we have two commissioners online. So let's go through this. Jeff Vassar,
Present.
Gretchen Rohrbach,
Present.
David DeLong,
Present.
Andrea Solomon,
Present.
Sven Weber present. With that, we have quorum. Let's go straight to the one and only action of the day, which is review and approval of the minutes. You have the minutes in your package. Any comments, requests for changes? No? Do I hear a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Second.
So let's go through with a roll call again. Where's my list? I just had it here. So Jeff Vassar,
Yay.
Gretchen Rohrbach,
Yes.
David DeLong,
Yes.
Andrea Solomon,
Yes.
Sven Weber, aye. So herewith unanimously approved. Going to A3, review of the calendar. Any comments from your side, Alan?
Nothing remarkable to speak to.
Okay, so the only thing is I brought up last time is that the next, that December 11th, I'm not in town.
Mhm.
And I'm actually in a time zone I would not. Yeah, cool.
And we have, again, flexibility.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we have a routine and I'm pleased we're able to keep it the second Wednesday of every month. But we can also revisit if there's a time that works. There's a lot of activity, you know, and if it's something that you're willing to accommodate, we can circle around some dates that might work for everybody or, you know, a majority. Or we can continue, but I think in December, we are gonna be talking about town meeting warrants.
Warrants, yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's pretty important, and if
Yeah.
we can get, you know, all of you to attend, that'd be great. And I will sort of sidebar circle, because I know December's a
So let's
busy month.
say perhaps we, you
Can you all look at your calendars now?
want it right now?
If that's
Yeah.
So
okay.
I
I'm
return,
here.
on the 13th, which is a Friday. So every,
So we're looking at.
We could do either the 11th or the 13th.
So we have, an alternative is, you said you returned on
yeah, but
Oh,
afternoon of
okay.
the 13th.
the
from your-
thirteenth, right? So
yeah.
basically, we're talking, you know, the 18th would be an option. We could even do
The
it,
18th is a Wednesday. What about another?
we could do
day of the-
a Tuesday, the 17th.
So I'm flexible because I'm the one who is,
I have a conflict, but.
It's okay. We could do the 19th if need be. Again, I know we're getting to the holiday seasons, but
so is the
Yes.
18th
18th is another option.
that working?
I could do the 18th. That would be better for me.
Gretchen,
Gretchen?
working for you? Jeff, working for you?
Yeah, I'm still here. I thought you said you couldn't do Wednesday, Sven.
No, I can't do the 11th.
Oh,
You could do
okay.
the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Okay, so let's,
4 PM on the 18th.
on the
Okay.
18th. Thank
Excellent.
you all for your flexibility here. And I
Right,
know it's cutting close to the holidays there.
busy time of year.
So 4 o'clock on the 18th.
Yep.
All right. Next item on the agenda, public comments on topics that are not on the agenda. So public comments will be limited to 15 minutes in total, with no more than 2 minutes allocated to any one speaker. The commission welcomes written comments at any time. If you're recognized, please state your name and any relevant affiliations, although not required. We generally, if we get comments, we typically not discuss them right there at the public comment field, but most likely later in the agenda. For example, if there are comments on the new garbage program, then that would be discussed at the director's report section. But any comments about anyone in the room? No, anyone online? Okay. Recognize Linda Niemann.
Hello, sorry, I'm driving. I was trying to make the meeting, but traffic is terrible. Let me start over. Linda Neiman, 59 Mallard Drive. I'm also co-coordinator of Mothers Out Front Concord, but I'm speaking for myself as a mother. I have 2 young boys who like to bicycle. I'm married to a husband who likes to bicycle. I like to just tool around town running errands and groceries. And I'm here because I want to understand the process by which you integrate the safety of vulnerable users in your plans for maintenance and improvements of the roads. I've just been really upset and concerned about the accidents that happened in Bedford on Route 62. The latest fatality was not even a week ago. It was on Saturday. Another pedestrian in the crosswalk was killed. And I know it's Bedford, but that road is also doesn't magically change when it comes into Concord, and their solar glare is still an issue in our town. And that pedestrian, she was a mom of a young boy, same age as my youngest son. I mean, it's just so senseless. So I really want to understand your process and how you address safety for vulnerable users in town, and how residents can participate, and how can we help you? Because I know you all have a lot on your plate. And another question I have is if there is dedicated funding specifically for safety improvements in town, because more and more people are biking and walking, and these accidents are not going to stop at town line. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So we will touch on that.
Yes, we
on
can talk that a little bit in the
the
roads
director's
a
report.
little bit.
Yeah, in the roads part. Next one here is Jordan and Linda. Could you take your hand down? That would be nice. Thank you, Jordan.
This is Jordan Newbold, 124 Hillcrest Road. I was going to comment on a sidewalk at the town line, near the town line on Main Street, out in Acton. Currently the sidewalk crosses the street twice, just across a bridge. And I've heard through being in association with the TAC that you were going to receive or have received funding to redo a lot of the roads, and would like to have a plan to hopefully reduce the number of crosswalks there simply by moving the sidewalk to the other side of the road. I can talk for more if you'd like, but I know you asked public comments to be limited to 2 minutes, so I'll stop here.
So thank you. Is it clear which sidewalk he's talking about?
Steve, you make a note of that?
Yeah, okay, then thank you. I think they know about it, and then we can touch on this
Yes.
later. Jordan, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? I don't see anyone. With that, we go to the next agenda item, which is commissioner comments. Anyone of the commissioners has any comments, interests, observations heard from the community about specific concerns, other than the things we will discuss later?
Awesome.
Yeah, Gretchen, no. Jeff, no.
Nope.
No.
Right.
Okay, that makes it easy. Next one is agenda item D3, fiscal year 26 enterprise fund capital budget draft.
Great, and why don't we
So who's-
invite up Jeff Morosky, who's our water sewer superintendent, to join us. And again, we've talked capital budgets for previously on a very high level for general fund. Those are the funds that have to compete with all the rest of the town. When we get to the enterprise funds, what's important is those are by design funded through rates. In the water arena, it's most of the community, 95% of the town, with some area in Acton along 2A that receives service. And on the wastewater side, it's different, and then only about a third of the town support the programs and the capital investments. But generally, we are talking about the needs, you know, the budget, not necessarily rates tonight. But part of the needs is important to understand that some we are able to offset some of our capital expenses with reserve funds because we've been collecting money for a period of time with a 10-year plan. So that allows us to offset some of those capital needs, and others that we'll be talking about and focus a little bit more. Some will require a borrowing that we can then pay off over a longer period of time. And we'll be touching upon, you know, the larger capital investments that we anticipate. There's, on a positive note, no real surprises. What's important is there's just a lot of money that we talk about with the both water and wastewater utilities. We provided a memo. Go ahead, Sven.
Just for the people from the general public here, to be clear, what we're talking about is enterprise fund capital budget, which is not the general fund capital budget. What's the differentiation? The enterprise fund is funded by fees. So let's say if we are making investments in water infrastructure, this is funded by the water fees and not by tax dollars. So I know there's certain sensitivity in town with respect to expenditures that drive tax dollars and tax up in town. I want to make sure today we are talking just about the enterprise fund capital budget, which is financed by fees, not by tax dollars. Go ahead, sorry.
Right, no, that's, thank you for that. If I can find, I'm gonna have to stop share. I'm going to, we've provided a memo, and we provide in the memo the major, we call investment areas, and they're differentiated. We can talk kind of water first, because that sort of affects more of the community. But we talk about the distribution system, we talk about the pumping and treatment systems, we talk about some planning, but you can see the various bins and the larger areas of, you know, how we fund these programs. I think what, you know, I would like to do is call attention to those things I think is kind of most important. And then you can also sort of focus on any of the nuances of these, but I think that to recall, last year we went to town meeting to get funding support for water treatment. And at the time, there was a $50 million borrowing request for water treatment. It was inclusive of some additional costs that we're going to bear over at NAGOG to do full-scale filtration, as well as two of our 5 groundwater sites.
Two are earmarked for treatment, Hugh Cargill and Second Division.
Yep. Now, we talked about the driver for this was a regulatory driver. Now, this is with new regulations just promulgated within the last year. And that's put all communities across the country on notice that we should have treatment in place by 2029. And just a reminder, a lot of the investments we make on the larger assets take multiple years. There's a design phase that can take time. There's a permitting phase that can take time. There's bidding and then construction. So these are multi-year efforts. And what we do is we look at our 10-year pro forma to figure out when's the strategic time to invest in each of these phases. As a reminder, each time we work with the finance director to coordinate any borrowing that he may be making on behalf of the town. And that's when we go and actually we'll borrow for the funds that we've now, you know, kind of spent. So that is the largest component of our water enterprise. We also carry, Jeff, do you want to highlight some of the other larger costs?
I've got rundown prepared, and obviously capital is really projects for water and sewer. The other kind of a bigger nugget is fleet and vehicles, but most of the bigger projects are really at the top. And I have to acknowledge finance for bringing on board a new program called ClearGov. And it allows us to do analytics and provide supporting documentation on each of these capital requests. And it allows me to filter the top price projects, and I'm gonna talk about those. On the water side, there's really 4 projects that are kind of on the bigger side, and the commission members are all generally aware of these. First one is NAGOG intake and treatment facility. Alan commented on this. The status of progress on this had been to design a PFAS-ready treatment facility. Well, with the regulation having taken effect, now we need to add PFAS treatment to actually incorporate those treatment components. So that's what's planned for FY 26. It's a designer services fee of $250,000. And then we're anticipating going into a 30-month construction period associated with NAGOG water treatment facility. And this is the parcel on CMLP's property on Elm Street. First 2 years, we generally just price it evenly per month. And it would be approximately 18.4 million first year, second year. And then the third half year is 9.2 million. So it rolls up to a construction cost of about 46 million for those 30 months. The next big bucket, mostly due to our ongoing effort to improve the water distribution system, is the water main replacement project. We're targeting the second half of the Silver Hill project, which is about 2,500 linear feet. That's estimated at 1.2 million for construction costs, and then we're reserving $200,000 for lead service line replacement activities in FY 26. And then we're holding a price of 1.5 million for 27 and 28, and then starting to slowly increase that through the years. The dollars don't go as far as they used to. We used to have a rule of thumb price per mile of main. And with each successive year that goes by, if you were to stick to that model, you're doing smaller and smaller projects, unfortunately. Third in the big bucket pile is Route 2A water main, and this goes hand in hand with the NAGOG treatment facility. In the current setup, water comes from the ponds, it flows down to the pump station after it goes through our UV treatment. And then it gets, ozonated first, and then it hits the pump station, gets UV treatment, and then it goes down it starts to serve customers in Acton on the Great Road before it crosses the line into Elm Street and Concord. So part of moving that treatment facility down to Elm Street, now we've got to deliver treated water to the customers that are north of the new treatment facility location. So that amounts to approximately 2.5 miles of main that we would have to install from the treatment plant to our northern extremity. So we're budgeting in 26 a designer engineering services for that work, and that's 650,000. And then we're planning for construction of that 2.5 miles. It's a very sizable project for a main project. So we're planning to split that out over 2 years, 4.34 in each of the 2 years, 4.34 million. And the fourth and final project, Alan had chimed in on this, but again, this is in the big bucket pile and also within the PFAS realm, is the Hugh Cargill and Second Division wells. These have historically had PFAS monitoring levels that are going to be at risk of exceedance to the new EPA MCL. It'll be a Chapter 149 procurement, so we're planning for bringing in owner's project manager on board and engaging designer services in FY 26. So that's 1.9 million total, 1.8 for the design fee and $100,000 for the OPM fee. And then we're planning to construct the improvements at each of the 2 wells using Hugh Cargill first in 27 and then Second Division in 28. at 4.99 million and 5.29 million each. Do you want to jump right into?
No, I think
Waste
that's,
sewer?
the overview for water and, interested in answering any questions, comments, things that may have caught your attention. There's a lot of other miscellaneous expenses, and I will say, Public Works spends a lot of money. We are responsible for a lot of assets, so, it's not embarrassing, but we sometimes don't spend a lot of time talking about $50,000 here or there. It all adds up. We're talking about the tens of millions of dollars and, but every dollar matters and we know that.
So one more procedure. So you handed out a new sheet.
Yeah,
Do you,
that is what's shown on the screen.
yeah, so,
So for Gretchen.
exactly.
Yes, for Gretchen and Jeff, we had sent a draft out, and again, we're literally in the process of making the budget and the sausage as we speak, so we've updated it. There's nothing real significant on the water end of things. I think we may refined a little bit of the water main expenses, looking out, and some of these costs are, I'm not gonna say nice tos, but they can be modified year to year. It's not all a crisis. That's why we look at a 10-year plan. And we also juggle the expense, so it's the amount of work we can actually handle. And I will say, when it comes to the PFAS and water treatment, what's happened with the cost escalation for NAGOG has just been really remarkable. So we're trying to be very strategic as far as the siting and timing of that work. There's some flexibility because we don't just want to jump in and be, sort of not strategic. Let me put it that way. With the groundwater wells, we've been using those year round. And so we're thinking, a lot of our focus is let's make sure about those sources that we can use year round and will continue to benefit over the long term and see what and how NAGOG can unfold. That work we're talking about Route 2A is major. It was not anticipated when we had a treatment facility on the shore of NAGOG. That cost is going to be borne by our water ratepayers, and it's not incidental. So we're just trying to figure out and navigate through the right approach to the treatment of NAGOG, and it's a lot of money. So we want to be very deliberate with when and how we spend that money. So that's other than that, I don't know if anything else caught your eyes or have questions.
Any questions from the commissioners? David?
Yes, so I'm trying to understand, I'm just standing up because of my back. Given all the size of all these projects, your expectations about the inflow of fees
Mhm.
or the implications at a broad level,
Yeah.
obviously you
No, we
can't
can share that.
pinpoint it, but what are the implications here for funding this?
Right, so to be consistent, we've talked about this last year, we had to make the case of we need $50 million, how are we gonna pay for that? It's gonna be through user fees. We projected a increase in rates of about 12.5% for 3 or 4 years. We did it last year, but we know this is sort of the long haul until we can start better realizing what the true costs are of the capital projects. And then the good news is year after year, we have a rate hearing and we look at where we are, what our revenue has been, and what we need to kind of make up over a long period of time. So the rate projection is about 12.5% increases over the next 3 years, and then probably dropping down. We'll have to see to what. The goal generally, historically, was about 5% a year. That was a normal target. This is unusual, and we're not alone. You're gonna hear a lot of communities who are increasing rates because of this treatment issue. It's gonna happen everywhere, so.
One other
I can't find
question.
my hand.
Well,
I don't know how to put the little hand thing up.
yeah, okay. Yeah, we can see.
Let Dave had a
Yeah.
follow-up question.
One other
Okay.
question. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but there's no, and it may be too early to know, there's any implication on the outcomes of the recent election affecting national regulation or,
A great question, and a lot of
anything?
people are wondering. I was literally on a call this afternoon with the climate czar for Massachusetts. With a, APB, we need to talk, we need to understand, and in Massachusetts, what we're hearing clearly is there's a lot of state interest in holding the course on, a lot of it's the environmental regulations and protection, and a lot of it deals with energy and energy efficiency. They didn't touch on water, but, it's same group, we don't anticipate a lot of significant changes going on in the direction. The PFAS is regulations,
Right.
that's not gonna change, at least in the water
Perhaps
side.
another answer to that is, I
Thank you.
think that the NAGOG intake facility we need to build no matter what,
Mhm.
yeah, with or without PFAS. So,
That's,
Gretchen, you had a question.
Yeah, I've got two. One is just a comment on page 8 on the memo. There's a typo with the cars that we're getting one in 2081 instead of 2018. Okay.
we're forward thinking.
Long-term
It's-
planning, Gretchen.
I have a feeling that that will be a real antique at that point.
Your term
My
will be
second-
over by then.
Okay, a lot of this, which is near and dear to my heart. And I definitely, we need more water. And I know that the town's really good with leak detection, but there's nothing in here, with the leak detection program. And as we are projecting into the future with our water needs, that's why we need NAGOG, that's why we need to clean up the wells. You're talking about potentially having a connection with the MWRA through their new Metro West. There's a lot of communities in the area that are looking at MWRA as their potential savior as climate change continues to dry up water resources. So I just want to be sure that we are going to be okay in the future and that we're looking at other ways besides the MWRA to be sure that leak detection and that we will be adequately served for the projected future, which is,
Yeah.
50 years out at least.
Correct. And to be clear, when I mentioned, it's kind of embarrassing, sometimes we don't talk about the tens of thousands of dollars. That's one of them. That's part of our water main. We spend every year, we do 50% of our system. And it's actually a requirement in our Water Management Act permit. So we'll continue to do leak detection. We'll continue to do water conservation. We'll continue to do price, messaging to conserve. And you're right. There's a lot of discussion and interest in MWRA, North Shore, South Shore, Metro West. And no matter what we do, we gotta be, careful about the drinking water resources, so. Well
Okay.
said, yeah.
Any other questions? Jeff, you have a question? No?
Nope.
No? Andrea? It's just a little remark from my side, I think is good you put the budget evolved. So if I see this correctly, although we are starting to put in total $2.7 million against the PFAS treatment for the 2 wells, plus starting on the 2.5 miles for Maine and further investments on NAGOG, total is 2.7 if my math is correct. We are still 500,000, so 10% below this year's capital budget.
For this year.
Yeah, this year capital budget was 5.4 million. So we are right now, as of now, projecting 4.9 million capital budget.
So it's a great question, when we put together.
It's
not
more a
just the-
statement than a question.
No, but it's a comment that
A
we,
lot of engineering plans, which
Yeah.
is lower cost than construction costs, so that's a big drop down, you might say, but
But
it's planning to do.
we also are working with finance department on trying to understand what the year-end FY 24
Yeah,
accounts were. And that's part of a challenge we've had townwide with going from an admin's budget platform or financial platform to Munis. So Bob Hill is working on, when we start finalizing discussions on rates, we will have all those sort of variables nailed down, so we have a better handle on where we stand and where we're gonna be.
yeah, but I think I want to highlight as a positive that although you start to invest significant dollars, we're not, at least for this year, overshooting our capital budget. That
Correct.
starts when we're really taking the big dollars in our hand
Mhm.
for NAGOG.
Yeah. And we will also try that pro forma to demonstrate what we keep in reserve, you know, so you know that we're not running into the red, and that'll be sort of a discussion when we talk rates.
And also, just for the records, because some people listen that on to this later from the recording, we're doing the PFAS treatment on the two wells ahead of NAGOG. And so that we're done with that, let's say in this year, like in fiscal year 2028, looks like you're done with the PFAS for the two wells. While we're still
They're
working our
smaller
way.
projects,
Yeah.
and they're all geared to be online and ready to roll when the regulation becomes effective.
Yeah, so that I think it's a good housekeeping to do these ahead.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and not.
they're more
wait till like-
manageable, less
Yeah.
complex.
And
and the sooner we
they're
get there,
on all the time.
You're gonna get the benefit of the
And then
treatment.
we can communicate when this is done to,
Correct.
to the community is at least the
Mhm.
wells are under control.
Yeah, correct. Great, we'll go.
Do we have any other questions from the public on this specific item? There is Colin Reed. Colin,
Hi, Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, excuse me, but speaking on my own behalf, I just want to give you folks a heads up. At our last Finance Committee meeting, we discovered a projection from the town that looks like unless we change how our operating budgets are going, in fiscal year 28, our expenses will exceed our revenues, and we may be facing an override request. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm sounding the warning bell now, 2 years in advance, because if you're thinking about having a large capital request, at the same time the town's thinking about doing an override for the operating budgets, it's going to make it even more difficult to get your capital request approved. I just want to give that heads up. So help us try to avoid an override, please. Thank you. That's it.
yeah, and Colin, to that, I had, as you know, I listened into that meeting and I gave already Alan a little heads up on the operating costs.
Even better. Thanks.
Okay, should we go to wastewater?
Let's go to wastewater.
All right, so now we'll bring up again the revised, and Jeff and Gretchen, I apologize.
I'm getting lost.
You'll have to look on if
On
you
the
look at
sheets.
the fine lines, there's been some changes. One of them, which is kind of notable from the draft that we presented earlier, deals with, you know, the largest issues on wastewater is Jeff, I'm gonna steal the thunder. It's MCI as potential outlet for a capacity relief that the town, and we have not had, where we've been at the risk of a building moratorium because of our existing wastewater capacity constraints. So that's important. We've flagged that as a potential expense. And we've also identified our wastewater treatment plant is most of the equipment has served its useful life. It's planned to be replaced. It's the benefit of having an enterprise system. We can put money aside, we can project forward, and we are looking at approximately about $10 million of improvements, refurbishment of our existing treatment facility. Again, the challenge for us is a small rate base. A third of the town is the one who has to bear those costs. We actually modified our spending plan from the draft that we sent out earlier till today to push off this replacement a year. The reason is we didn't want to go into town meeting looking for borrowing authorization of $10 million for something which is, it's advisable, we should be doing it, but we have some flexibility because we do maintain the facility. It's just a question of when do you start spending lots of money on maintenance versus just replacement. On the other side of this same coin, MCI and the wastewater treatment plant, there's a situation where the state, and it's not unusual, did not invest money
Mhm.
in refurbishing, replacing.
Yep.
And they've allowed it, possibly because that's just the way the state operates. They can spend money more when it's a need or emergency than preventative. Well, that facility is in need of a major overhaul as well. And some of those needs are more time sensitive than others, really don't have the same flexibility. So what we've done, and again, over the 10 years, we've phased the investments of the need to, which are right out of the gate, if the town were to accept responsibility. If we know certain investments need to be made within the next year or two. We then know that additional investments will also be needed, but we can phase that in so it fits within the town's financial models a little bit more conveniently. So that's kind of how we respond to the FinCom, and knowing the broader interests of the town and costs. This is how we can adjust, the enterprise needs a little bit, but those are the two largest outliers on our capital plan, which is wastewater treatment. So,
So where is the MCI in this?
Yeah.
so if you look at
Which
this,
row
we're
relates
calling
to
it in
which one?
this, it's
So
capacity.
where Jeff
Yeah,
has.
go ahead, Jeff.
Same
Yep.
question. Which row was MCI? Which row was town?
All right, so if you go to, let me. I will try to go on the screen here for people who
Yeah,
are following.
just on the screen is fine.
Yeah, so basically, this area, the plant equipment borrowing, in this line here. This
Yep.
is the, between what we have, not borrow for design, 650,000. That's what we're looking for in FY 27 now. We pushed that out.
And that's the town's plant, not MCI.
This is the town's plant, and then this
Yep.
is for the investment, so I say approximately about $10 million between 27 and 30
Yep,
to refurbish our facility. MCI is down in where we call it capacity treatment optimization.
okay,
And we call it that because we don't know, that's not a bird in the hand yet. We do know we need to, regardless of MCI, we still have to be considering how do we expand our treatment capacity.
Mhm.
And we've talked about in the past, there is a scenario we could do something on site potentially to expand our existing facility. Expansion could be a new groundwater discharge site somewhere that we then sort of have to design and construct a treatment facility to go with it. But right now, to be expedient, we're identifying MCI as the most probable and likely opportunity near term. And I want to be very clear, this is a spending plan, not a revenue plan. And if we are going to, go ahead, Jeff.
One thing I'd like to add to that, if we're gonna be a partner with the developer, that treatment facility really isn't capable of handling a larger load than what it's currently seeing. It's kind of really belt and suspenders, or, it's really limping along. So part of these improvements are really to enable it to treat that flow from the development.
As well, right, so when we talk MCI. We envision for the town to put skin in the game. It's got a partner with the state who is already and continues to use that facility. They need wastewater treatment for the farm. So they own a facility, it has to be maintained and operated. They're really not in the business of doing that. They're looking to partner with the town. But for the town to take over, the town doesn't want the liability. So we're gonna have to say, you can contribute. The town broadly can contribute if it wants to see expansion, economic growth and development. And then the development of that campus will contribute. And that's going to be the only way that this is gonna be a scenario that makes sense for all. But it's not just one who I imagine would be on the hook. Go ahead, Dave.
Who makes that decision? Who are the deciders?
Jeff will make that decision next week, no.
And roughly when?
So we have a limited window of, well, I'll tell you what, we're working with DCAM is the owner. We're working with
DCAM, that's
DCAM,
the
Department of
state-
Capital
state.
Asset Management.
Yes.
They're the state. DOC, Department of Correction, is a user. So DCAM is selling or working with the town to reconfigure that campus in a partnership to allow for economic growth development, regional benefits. But they are in the governor's budget. When they closed that facility, they provided a provision to allow the town to take and accept that ownership of that treatment facility, which has value if we do it in a strategic
So-
manner.
So just for everyone, the treatment facility is on a different time schedule than the whole MCI, the rest, the
Yes,
main
yes,
thing of
yes.
MCI. So I think we have, when is the
It's
deadline?
a fast track.
Yeah, so when is the deadline for the proposal we
it's-
have to give them?
In February, we have to respond. A letter of interest or response, it's gonna take time.
Yeah.
To say we're interested, but we need to work through some of these details, and that's what we're working on presently.
Is it this office that decide that?
No, it'll be working through the town manager's office. There is a task force
Mhm.
that's been pulled together from the select board to oversee the redevelopment. So we'll be partnering, we'll be informing this group. And the town, through the town manager's office, will be providing a response. DCAM has already informed us. They want decisions to be made quickly. They don't want the town floundering, and they're interested in some certainty here. But they also understand the town has to do its due diligence. And so we think there's a good recognition of the complexity, interest in resolving it in a mutually beneficial way. But the costs are not insignificant. And I think one thing we need to understand is whoever bears the cost I see it for the new users. New could be existing DOC, redevelopment, and any economic growth in town is probably gonna have to support this. And if it's not through general funds, it will not likely be on the ratepayer for the wastewater back, because that's just not fair. They shouldn't be supporting economic growth and development for the town's benefit or DOC's needs. So we're gonna protect the ratepayer, but I think it's a real good opportunity that it's not gonna be inexpensive. We know
Yeah.
that.
I'm just looking at our meeting calendar. That means in both, I don't know, we need to have at least an update in the January meeting and then
Sure.
something there in
Yeah,
the
that's a good
February
point.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just
Agreed.
take a note on that. Other questions from commissioners? No? So again, like the same exercise from my side, like on the other budget, is if I take this wild card MCI out, yeah. You're actually asking for 2026 for a capital budget of 1.1 million compared to 1.9 million this fiscal year. So again, we're asking for less money on the capital budget. Subject to the wild card MCI.
Yeah,
Yeah, and looks like for fiscal year 27, we're projecting a similar amount of 1.1 million subject to the wild card. And then it goes up given the existing town plant investments. Then they will kick in somewhere in fiscal year 2028. But just to get a sense, and when we talk in town with finance and the finance committee, that we're actually in these two enterprise budgets, we are asking the net of kind of these special projects, we are asking for less than we normally ask for keeping the water running and the sewer treated and treated.
Operation budgets are more linear and forecastable, and capital
Yeah.
is kind of subject to projects.
So to Karen Reed's point, it all comes
Mhm.
plays into a whole picture. Okay,
Um,
Soderberg.
Sven,
Hello?
can I,
Yeah,
not to get into the details today, Alan, but I'm wondering when it comes to the MCI facility and sewage treatment there, as part of discussions, has a district improvement district DIF financing been talked about if development happens there as a way for tax revenue to pay for infrastructure that may turn that into more productive property?
To be determined, but that is what, you know, that'll be part of the conversation, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Any public comments? I don't see any. So, thank you, that was,
Thank you.
I know every year, this is a lot of work. I hope the new system, finance system of the town is making it more helpful.
It will be next year. We
Yeah.
have to feed this beast and next year we'll be able to kind of.
Next year it bites you back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is the roads program update. And I think that could be also the point where we touch on the question we got from Jordan earlier in the
Mhm.
public comment section.
Sure, so,
And I don't know if you want to put safety there in too, or
I think we can talk a little bit about it
Yeah.
and, you know, we're not gonna go too far down the road because this is, I'll let Steve sort of
yeah,
touch
we could-
upon those, but
Okay.
Steve Dukran, town engineer, is here, and Joe Cormier, public works engineer, who's doing a lot of the detail work on the roads program, and has been, you know, hats off. Where Joe has been sort of the point person out for a lot of that activity you've seen downtown and all the work that's been done. Joe's been here night and day, you know, sort of overseeing some of that stuff, so, you know, it's good to have good people out in the field. Steve, what's the expression you like to say with construction?
Has to do with inspecting, right?
Yes,
Expect what you inspect.
yes.
Right, right.
So we have an inspector out there to make sure we're getting what we need, and Joe's been that, so, Steve, Joe, you wanna?
Yeah, let me start. You might be wondering why we're here. It's called a roads program briefing. It's an annual process that we have been following for years. Where we come in and we kind of give an overview of the program. Captured what we did in the past year or this year. How we go about selecting roads. And then what to look towards in the following year for a program. And it's a process that's kind of developed over the years and evolved such that we have incorporated an asset management program for street selection. So that to show that when we pick streets, it's not as subjective as some people assume. Joe has spent a lot of time, you know, in the last couple of years working on this program. And he put together this presentation for you, walk through it. I know Alan wants to not spend too much time in it, but keep it going.
I'd love to spend lots of time, but we have to be mindful of, that's all.
you're good at it, we're so far.
Don't say.
So some of the topics I wanted to cover, as Steve mentioned, just kind of a recap of the projects we had going on this year, really the pavement management, and some other road projects that were also thrown in there. Kind of quickly discuss the overall basis of our pavement management program, and how we go about selecting streets, that are gonna be receiving some sort of treatment. And then kind of what the next steps are, looking towards the 2025 program and how that's gonna be developed. So some of the 2024 projects, that we were constructing this year were a continuation of our 2023 projects from last year. Last year, some of the two contracts, we had a preservation contract and a traditional reconstruction, type contract. It was bid later in the year, so it pushed off some of that work from getting done in the fall to this year. So a lot of the work that I'm gonna be discussing is not just 24 projects, it was actually a combination of last year's projects and this year's projects. So the 2024 projects that we put out for contract in the spring, we put them out into two phases. To help bring competitive bids, because we had we have a knowledge of what the contractors in the surrounding area are capable of, and what they're efficient at. So we kind of broke them up into a couple different groups, to try to help with, you know, the cost of these projects. We broke up to phase one, which was a preservation contract, which consisted of microsurfacing and fog sealing. These are treatments that are conducted on streets that are in fairly good shape. It's a lower cost than your traditional reconstruction. And it's not as invasive. So it's a very quick, or it's a quicker process than a typical paving project would be. So our phase one went out to bid. We're in negotiation with Indus on some of the bid pricing. And we've moved past that, and we're in the process of awarding that work to them now. Our phase four, which was our traditional reconstruction projects, that was put out to bid in the spring and has been awarded to Lazaro Paving Corporation. So they were actually awarded the 23 contract as well. So they're in the process of completing the 23 work and the 24 work right now. And the work is ongoing. We also put out another preservation type contract, which was crack sealing. This is a much smaller contract, that is kind of town-wide, to treat some of our less distressed streets. And then there on the bottom, there's some additional roads projects that were some related to pavement management and some more geared towards sidewalk improvements and pedestrian improvements. That's the Main and Walden Street intersection improvement project. And then the other project there is the Silver Hill Infrastructure Improvement Project, which is an engineering roads project and a combination of the water division's water improvements. So this is just a comprehensive list of all the streets that we plan to work on or have worked on this year. And again, this is a list comprised of 23 contracted work and 2024 contracted work. So I'm obviously not going to go through all of this, but I kind of just wanted to give you a gist of all the streets that we're touching in some sort of fashion. You know,
Joe, what do the color codes mean?
so those are I kind of broke it up into work that's completed, work that's remaining, and work that's ongoing. So everything in green's completed, or substantially complete. The stuff remaining hasn't been started yet. And then the ongoing work is work that we've touched and we're in the process of working on. It's not substantially complete.
Quick question on the monument square thing where National Grid is still digging. Wasn't that planned to be done?
Yes, that work is gonna be wrapped up by next week.
Really?
Yes.
You give hope to a lot of neighbors there.
We've been pushing them, and it's been complex and there's been a lot of impact. But, you know, it's with construction and even with good weather.
Yeah.
You know, we've been fortunate there's good weather, but we've allowed them to work on the weekends occasionally. We're doing everything we can to move it along, but we've been fortunate, you know, with our weather to date. But in any event, I did want to just highlight, this is the tool that engineering uses and references to try and cost out, you know, projects and understand the areas, and you can see from and to, and you know, we have roads like Main Street that are miles and miles, and you know, oftentimes we're talking about a segment or so. So that's why you see such a long list.
Yeah, those aren't necessarily full streets there. Like Alan said, there's segments of streets in some cases. So just to kind of describe some of the work that we did. So this is a fog seal and a crack seal treatment that we did this year. We did 5.6 miles of fog sealing, 10.2 miles of crack sealing. The work that's still outstanding that we haven't done is the microsurfacing work. And that is on Old Bedford Road, or a section of Old Bedford Road and a portion of Harrington Ave. So that picture there on the right is freshly applied fog sealing treatment. That's in the process of curing and drying. So that's a organic based oil that they spray on top of the road, and it seeps into the asphalt to try to retain its new asphalt properties to try to keep it flexible. So for reconstruction work that we did this year, we did 2.2 miles of full depth reconstruction. That's where we go in and we reclaim the entire road, grade it, and then put a whole new section of asphalt in. So we did 2.2 miles of that, 3.6 miles of mill and overlays. And we're currently in the process of doing these various treatments on Westford Road, Temple Road, Isaac Davis, Carr Road, Channing, Redcoat Lane, Bartlett Hill, and Martin Road. So those are actually scheduled to be paved within the next week. Then there'll be some restoration work to follow after that. The outstanding work that we still have to do is Davis Court, Lawsbrook Road, Ripley Hill, and Main Street. And I guess the highlighted project there was the Main Street project that took a good portion of the summer to get done, and we wanted to get it done before school came back in and traffic picked up. So
And it's probably worth Main Street just identifying, there's been a lot of interest and, you know, it's a fairly substantial. Outstanding work to be done. So, you know, I know we've sort of fielded some calls and I think we're, you know, potentially gonna try and do something, maybe Steve, on
Yeah, the way the contractor wants to approach it, it's because it's a main street with a lot of traffic. He doesn't want to open it up and get caught with weather. So he's thinking about if he can phase in a portion of it, depending on his equipment availability, crews availability, and so on. So he hasn't committed to a schedule, but he's still open to probably doing something.
Is there is it a freeze point? What is the driving factor in terms of weather?
yeah, so it's you know, obviously precipitation is a big part of it, but yeah, temperatures is a big part of it. Yeah. If they don't have temperatures, depending on what they're doing, it's tough to get compaction with the asphalt because it cools too quickly. So that's a big portion of it. So early mornings, even this time of year is difficult to achieve that, so. And then once you open up a section of the road, you can't not pave it, so, you know, you have to have a good stretch of forecasted weather. So some other projects that weren't necessarily pavement management driven. Although the Silver Hill Infrastructure Improvement Project, that kind of has a couple components, but the Main and Walden Street Intersection Improvement Project, this was a grant funded project through MassDOT through their Shared Streets and Spaces grant. It was put into place to promote slower traffic speeds and improve pedestrian mobility throughout the intersection there. So this project was constructed over the summer. There's still some components that have to be installed, like the crosswalk, surface treatments, that has to be installed, and some lighting that's going in there, some bollards. The trees did come in, yeah, the end of last week.
So one just observation on that, I generally really like how it worked out there. I recently tried to drive out of Walden into Main Street and turn it left. That was absolutely impossible. Because with the new bump outs, it's you see even less over there, and was highly concerned that I'm running into an accident. So we might just, again, whatever the traffic safety process is, and we probably touch on this later, we might put on the agenda at least to look at if we are doing when you come out of Walden, it's only a right turn only.
You're saying right here.
Yeah, a right turn only, where people that want to go left, they can do the circle around over there.
So that was the.
Because I had a feeling this is just waiting for a major accident.
Well, you know what people do now is they go past the crosswalk.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're not stopping it.
So you can't stop because you don't see anything.
And then they're just pushing their way through that.
That actually was a recommendation from the consultant who designed this, that.
Oh.
Yeah, to eliminate left out.
You can't pay me the money.
Would you design it?
Yeah, so,
Make it a
we revisit that, look at that, because when I was sitting there, I felt super uncomfortable doing the left. And my wife was like, take a ride, take a
That's gonna take a lot of education.
So we'll hire your wife. She sounds like the smart one.
She is.
So I think it's interesting and, you know, we talk about intersections and designs and safety. And, you know, all these things, I will say, just so kind of publicly, this was a grant. It started with a certain value. It was managed through Department of Planning and Land Management. There was various concepts that were shared, and I just need to sort of, and I'm learning lessons. It's only been 28 years in Concord, but but people had heard something and then were surprised, well, this isn't what we heard. And it's just very important for us to be clear as far as when a project is complete and designed, that people understand, well, this is what's actually, this is it. This is the project. Because there's been discussions about plateaus and things like that that had been talked about during concept. And along the design and the value of the project, this ended up costing a lot more than originally conceptually planned. We started the project, we needed to supplement it, but there will be some crosswalks being installed this week. Or
Next week, yeah,
Is that the red markings that you're gonna do?
yeah, it's a red,
Brick.
yeah, brick, yeah, exactly. Yep.
It's not actual brick, it's just a brick, full brick.
reflective.
Yeah.
But it, I mean, making that a right-hand turn only is not an expensive thing, right?
No, I mean, we'd have to, you know, sign it and everything else, but no, I mean, it wouldn't be expensive to implement it.
It could be similar like Kaiser goes to the main, where you have at least at a busy time.
Right.
You can do it similar, like pick the busy time,
Mhm.
like you have it over there.
Mhm.
There you say a right
Only
turn
a
only.
4 to 6 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I would suggest it's gonna take a ton of public education to ever do that, because the whole town is used to turning left there.
True, but like, being a person who lives in town and goes through that all the time, I avoid it because I know better.
Yeah.
So I would imagine a lot of people who live here don't purposely avoid that
I
intersection.
go to that intersection on purpose. Because it's fun. No, I'm really serious. I just think in terms of buy-in, I can just hear the complaints already.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Whatever, if there's a
Yeah.
change, there'd be a process. No
You're
question.
kidding me.
Yeah.
And the process includes a public hearing on select board approval.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
these are things that the town has to, you know, sort of realize if we're gonna see changes and improvements in areas. And we talk about safety and, you know, potential conflicts. It's an old town. It was designed and constructed
And we will have,
based on the, you know, conditions that no longer
we
exist.
will have a lot of visitors in town next year.
We
That,
think.
that are not, they don't know the ins and outs, and then. I mean, I don't, yeah, but
We'll move
Okay,
on
yeah.
from that,
Yeah.
but
Point noted, and again, it is sort of how we have to think about a lot of these projects.
So that was kind of our roads program project portion of it. This kind of goes into our pavement management side of it. How we kind of look at what the treatments we did, how does it affect our road system, the health of our roads itself.
Before you go there, just because this is about conditions of road and the value and of investments. Do we just want to sidebar, Steve, a little bit on sort of the comment? That was made early, just to talk about the safety issue, the multimodal issues, at least how it's in our universe. And where and how Concord's sort of trying to better understand and manage that. It's worth just a couple minutes,
Yeah.
I think.
So I recall the first question being, how does the road program address safety of pedestrians and bicycles?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so the way our budgeting works, we request, you know, capital budgets for various programs, and the one Joe is discussing right now is essentially the extreme condition, which is the largest piece of our roads program. So it is about the condition of pavement, and getting the pavement condition index to, an acceptable level. Getting more roads in good condition as opposed to where we have been. We know that there was a trend, a downward trend. In implementing the road pavement management projects, we have to do certain things. We have to address ADA compliance on sidewalk tip downs. But because our budgets has always been limited, there's seldom extra dollars to put towards other types of improvements. So because we know that, we've made budget requests for pedestrian and bicycle improvements. So there's a budget request, and that hasn't been funded to any good extent in the last, few years. So until we start seeing some real money, we can't address those needs, although we know there are those needs. We have put in for grants, like we did for the Main and Walden Street, and then, and some others that we've done in the past, but those are few and far between. A lot more, resources are needed to address the safety issues. Now, the town is undergoing a current study. Consultant Stantec is performing a study on our transportation needs. And the study will continue to identify these needs, set up priorities and recommend, funding based on estimates for these improvements, whether they're crosswalks, which I think is what that question was referring to. They cited some issues over in Bedford.
Yeah, so I think it's though, it's just, and we can ask Linda later again, she's in the room now. So I think there are a few things. One is, in the end, when you do it and you try to do a budget, but the other thing is, I think there's a traffic safety group in town.
Yes.
Isn't that headed by one of from the police side?
Yeah, so.
And there's a certain process, and I think it's generally, from my observation, there seems to be not a good communication from the town or the resources for citizens to understand if they have a traffic safety concern. How do you bring this up to whom? And what's the process after that, so that people understand that there might be, we can discuss this here now, and so Linda knows about it, but in the end, it also means is how can the town make this more transparent for the rest of the citizens?
So the safety group you referred to is known as the Traffic Management Group.
Yeah.
And it's made up of staff, engineering staff from my team, from police, highway maintenance, and planning folks. And occasionally we'll have other participants from other parts of, other departments to weigh in. Requests get on their list, and they have a long list, and they review the the need, how I wouldn't say how valid the need is, because all needs are bad, but how important needs are and how they stack against others. And they always, for the most part, end up with, well, where's the money going to come from? And that's why we have the budget request for pedestrian and bicycle improvements. And if that line should be funded, we can start addressing, the priorities on that list.
So
But who, sorry, wait, sorry.
So how's that translated into the public? I think we have to work on that.
But how is this list, is there oversight to that group, or is this group just doing its work, and then suddenly there's just one budget line and nobody knows what's really behind, and therefore it's getting cut out?
So the group started, quite a few years back, Alan, you might remember.
Yeah.
And the list has grown, and they when they review a request, they make recommendations, and often the recommendations will go to to us, the directors, the police chief, And the town manager, and in recent, years, even the Transmission Advisory Committee is being made aware of the highest priorities, like the Haywood Meadow, or the Haywood Meadow crossing on Haywood Street. That's one. The crosswalk, public library on Sudbury Road, that's another. The traffic management group has reviewed these, and they have been elevated to the Transmission Advisory
Committee,
Committee.
okay. The tag
Yeah.
is oversight.
Yeah, and I think, Sven, where we are, the TAC, Transportation Advisory Committee, is relatively new. Is still finding its kind of foundation, but I do think it will be a community. It's not staff, it's volunteers who have the broader interest on connectivity, on cycling, on walking. That's sort of their focus. So I think what we're looking at ultimately is we have Stantec is a consultant who's helping the town with its transportation plan. And there's been lots of discussions on what's the best way to identify needs from a crosswalk in West Concord to Main Street, by the library. Identify, prioritize, and then determine where, what's the funding, how much? And then how do we present that so these things can get funded and not forever get carved off as non-essential? Well, they're important, and we're only just trying to realize how to package all this, but I think it's gonna be a combination of the transportation plan, informing TAC, which will also be partnering with TMG, and then how to present these and who's gonna advocate or champion for, we need this money. I imagine TAC is gonna be more and more a partner and player when it comes to identifying some of those, accessory transportation issues, because engineering is historically focused on road condition, some sidewalks, but that's been very limited. And then intersections like we just described, but the connectivity for cycling and pedestrians has been, I think, hasn't gotten its full appreciation in town.
Okay. As a citizen dealing with a million other factors, what I'm hearing is sort of an alphabet soup of different groups that I'm not gonna know, understand. It's likely that we're gonna have an increased number of the kind of citizen, I'm sorry, I forget her name, who spoke.
Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In person.
Thank you, that you raised. I would expect us over time to have more and more of these, frankly, as bikes and other non-motorized transportation become more common. So my recommendation would be that we make the process very transparent and explicit. Here's, as a citizen or a group of citizens, here's how you bring a proposal to this group, and here's how it's going to flow through. Here are the things, and I realize there's some back stuff that has to happen, so there's a way. I didn't understand this. Is there a way then that we've been bringing warrants to the town meeting to vote on things, and things have been voted down?
They were cut before they even
Or
come
they
there.
already, so they don't even, because it'd be nice if I can see if these warrant items came up as individual warrant
Mhm.
items, they might get more support. Particularly emotional support, those are my kids that
Yeah.
really, here, that,
Yeah.
and get voted through, than if they were buried deep in a capital planning.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a
just-
dangerous line if you start to
I see, yeah, that's a good.
single
point.
out
That's a good
line
point.
items deep in the
That's a good
budget, and make them single warrants, then
One
That's a good point.
opportunity that we are exploring is, and Joe's gonna talk about spending money wisely to refurbish roads and maintain them. But we are looking at, and this is important for this commission to understand, presenting, we talked about this last meeting. We know we're talking about $25 million of needs over the next 5 years for the roads. And we've never been funded in that way. We're looking to possibly go to tier 3 funding, which means debt exclusion to go out and borrow for 25 plus million dollars to spend over a 5-year period. But I imagine in that package, I envision there'll be some not just road work, but intersection work and maybe connectivity work, because now we have enough money to do the design and assessment, but it'll be in strategic areas. It might be in corridors that are being identified as priorities. It's a start. But I think we need to look at it that way, because otherwise they do get orphaned. They never get the attention they need. And it's a starting point, and it'll also give TAC an opportunity to have a voice and help agree. Yeah, this is a corridor we agree is important. But it's going to be a iterative process, and I imagine if we're going to see any success over the next short period of time, it's going to be, let's make sure we include some allowance for these things, not just road condition, but maybe some sidewalk, maybe some intersection, maybe some line marking, who knows, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you know.
And the Stantec study, transportation study, is important in getting us there. Because we're really trying to address the topic of safety, and safety could be problems could be for a number of reasons. Could be speeding. How do you address speeding, right? Tomorrow at the TAP, the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, they'll be talking about speed limit reduction, looking at some other town that's successfully done so. But that's one aspect of safety. The other aspect is, you know, what improvements you can do in the road to protect your pedestrians, crosswalks. In my own view, and I've told Alan from day one, there are many crosswalks that are improperly located or improperly designed, you know, but they all take resources to get in there. The one crosswalk on Sudbury Road that we did a few years ago was $140,000, you know, in order to get it designed to be as safe as possible. You know, what we're doing on Main and Walden is also pedestrian improvements by putting those bump outs to help reduce the speeds and to give more visibility of the cars to the pedestrians and to the pedestrians to the cars, you know, so it takes a lot. And the Stantec studies to get us there, to make the recommendations, to help us with how we take all of these requests that we get from the public and how do you go to what kind of formulas we use to address each one. And so it's
And some are more, you know, when we evaluate and have good engineers and time to focus, it's like Jordan had requested earlier on, there's a specific crosswalk that he identified as, it doesn't make sense. And we should be looking at those things. And, you know, if it's a matter of you just eliminate one and you improve safety, those are some of the things that I think we have to, it's all part of this. But there's a lot of these needs. And what we've heard over time is it's usually the asks are from people in the neighborhood who see a specific neighborhood issue. And the challenge is how to do this universally in a fair way. It's always a challenge.
Right.
But anyway, I wanted to just
Perhaps-
identify,
Yeah, perhaps
respond
just
to those.
given, and it seems like we're going that path, which is good news, that we are able to spend $25 million over 5 years. So I would say it would be if that list exists, yeah, about from that traffic safety group, together then with the traffic advisory committee, if that list exists, each time we are touching a road, that you look at that list and says, is there something we kind of A, make sense, and B, we can accommodate if you're touching the road anyway? Yeah, and we don't need to kind of in the end have, I don't know, the super golden solution. We need to have then, like, can we accommodate safety
Incremental improvements.
in that when we do that? So I would just encourage,
Kind of the same way you do with the utilities.
yeah,
You always contact the utility companies. We're opening up this road. Do you need to do anything while we have it open? Why not look at the safety at the same time? What kind of improvements? How expensive are they? Is it just a matter of making a crosswalk more visible? how much are those, I mean, I think it's very helpful to have the signs with the lights that
Mm.
people can hit. Of course, now we have one by the prison that nobody uses anymore. But when it was, but they do have one a little further down at the bikeway. And that's incredibly helpful. That crosswalk by the library, I'm sure you've heard complaints for years about how hard it is to see people sometimes crossing there. And nothing's ever been improved or done for it. So these aren't the first time we're hearing about safety complaints.
Andrea, what's crazy is we inherited a list of needs based on public outreach.
Yeah.
It did not include. And you're right.
Library?
Hey, see, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, someone did take good notes.
Believe me, it was, gosh, why wasn't that on the list?
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so. Just again, just to respond to the ask, it was, Steve is our sort of transportation guru locally, and he works with our consultants on this stuff. So Joe,
And
you
then
want to pick up on?
On that, and just for Jordan, I don't know if he's still there. I think, is there, can he easily find where he can bring his concern to the traffic safety group? It's just,
Yeah, if you can contact us in engineering,
okay,
between members.
okay, all right, if Jordan is still there, I hope he's.
I'm still here. I
Yeah.
just didn't quite understand what you were saying.
He said you can contact here the engineering group at Public Works, and they help you navigating that, okay?
Who should he contact?
Can you contact you?
Sure, yeah.
So that's Steve Dukran. You can contact Steve Dukran here at Concord Public Works. Yeah,
Okay.
and if you don't find his contact details, you can contact me, Sven Weber. Yeah.
You'll, if you call into Public Works, they'll make sure you get over to engineering and we can sort of take the information. We will say it'll be added to a list, but we'll walk you through the process, and I don't know if it's the first time we'll receive this report or it's the 5th time, but that's kind of why we want to sort of tally it. But thank you for at least putting it forward today. That was helpful. Thanks, Jordan.
Okay,
You
sorry,
don't
you're
need me
starting
anymore.
to,
I'm just gonna drop out. Thanks. Bye.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on the pavement?
Yeah, so we're
Yeah,
gonna
sorry.
go through the conditions and
Okay.
kind of the value cost.
Yeah, so just saying the pavement management program monitors the health of our roads. It's kind of a way of measuring the construction that we've done, the positive impact it's had. How our roads are deteriorating overall. And kind of the basis of how we do that is our pavement condition index. It's a numerical ranking system that looks at our distresses in the street. It looks at the type of them, the density of them that are present, and puts a number to that. So some of the distresses that are incorporated into this is asphalt cracking, potholes, the bumpiness of the road when you ride over it, road patches, and things of that nature. So we gather this information from a third party who comes out and surveys our roads. They pick up all of this data, analyze it, and put it into an asset management program called StreetScan. So we do these surveys triannually. In the past 6 years, we've done 3. Going back as far as 2018. Our PCI was 78. In 2021, it decreased to 68. And in 2024, we just recently surveyed our streets and received the data back in September. And it showed an increase of 3 PCI points to 71. And then in between those surveys years, we project what the deterioration is based on an anticipated decline of the PCI.
And what's your goal? 3 points, 68 to 71 could be, given what we're investing.
Sure.
How do you set standards for evaluating?
Yeah, so it's really based on our budget that we're, obviously with like a PCI, high 80s.
Sure.
But the budget kind of dictates what that PCI increase is gonna be. so this, that increase that you saw, of, you know, of 3 PCI points, based on what we've been, budgeted for. We anticipated an increase up until this point, but going beyond this point, we anticipate seeing a decrease in that. So this graph here is just showing different budget scenarios, that Stan Tech put together for us in 2022. And our PCI is following roughly, what we've been budgeted. So that green, between the green and purple line. So we saw an increase, but if it keeps getting budgeted the same way it is getting budgeted for, we're gonna maintain or slightly decrease our PCI over time. So that was kind of,
This is a great graph, and basically this is, you know, $2 million a year versus 3 million versus 4 million, and you can see the impact to catch up.
Seems like that would be powerful at town meeting to show what you're voting on.
yes, this is so now we've kind of looked at the network overall, we kind of zone in when we're developing our pavement management projects for next year, and selecting streets. So this graph here is just showing how a road deteriorates a segment of the street over its lifespan. So it starts off with 100 PCI, and has varying degrees of or rates of deterioration. So when it's new, it's a slower deterioration towards the middle span of its life. You know, the deterioration increases and then it kind of plateaus off towards the end. And within this graph, it has 4 treatment bands, I guess you call them, with their associated cost per square yard. So as you know, as the road deteriorates, those costs to repair those roads to a better quality increase dramatically. So kind of the basis of our program is treating these streets that are showing up on the bottom of these bands before they fall into the next consecutive band down, where the repair is much more costly. So given our budget, we obviously can't hit all of these streets. Some are going to slip through the cracks. So there's no pun intended. So our pavement management program and StreetScan, they help us evaluate that, and kind of prioritize those streets the most efficient way based on the budget we have. So some overall goals of the program, which we touched upon most of these already. You know, the main goal, I guess, is to improve the PCI of the pavement, where we can do intersection alignments, improve pavement markings, you know, drainage. We evaluate all of our drainage systems before we go in and do a street. So where we identify problem areas, we repair them. Where there's improvements that are needed, we can go in and do those. As Steve mentioned before, there is an ADA compliance requirement that we have to meet. So where we identify those needs, we go and improve upon that.
And John, you want to add number 7, Andrea?
Yeah,
Safety.
yeah, and 0.7, that's good.
So just developing our 2025 program. We're going to go in and review the new PCI data. We have Stan Tech helping us out, reviewing that just to validate it and make sure that the actual field conditions are accurate to what our data says. Going to go in and look at the treatments that we've done. Some of them have been newer treatments that we've tried in town, so we're tracking those to see what kind of impact they've had, and making sure that they are, you know, beneficial in the long term.
Is there any prioritizing of particularly busy roads, like Main Street? You know, when you have PCI, but it's one thing to have a PCI on, you know, Eastbridge Road versus Main Street or Sudbury Road or a main artery.
Exactly, yeah. So we classify our roads into, we have arterial streets, local roads, collectors, and local dead end streets. So those carry different weights as far as repair priority go.
Okay.
So it's not strictly just based on PCI. So yeah, that's a good point. And then these are just some projects that we have slated for next year, that are kind of already on the docket. So we have obviously the pavement management contracts that are gonna be drafted this year and put out to bid in the spring. The Silver Hill Infrastructure Improvement Project, that's ongoing right now. It's a water main improvement project, with a drainage portion and road rehab portion added as well. Right now, it's currently under construction for the water main, installation with road rehab in the spring. And then the last project here, which I haven't touched upon yet, is the Main Street and Baker Ave intersection improvement project. This is currently in the design process of it. And it's slated to be constructed in the spring. Steve, I don't know if you have any.
That goes hand in hand with the 40B project there.
Not necessarily. This has been in the design for a while. We've been kind of slowed down because of dealing with the butters and trying to get easements. We started to see some movement, two banks. They've been slow to act or react, but we contacted one of the banks and we're having a meeting before the end of the week.
But you plan for the additional capacity from the 40B project.
How that's been addressed. We get a contribution from the 40B project.
Yeah, okay, no, I'm more.
I know what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm more, no, I thinking more like you have in your design already reflected the additional traffic that is generated by the 40B.
That's
project.
correct, but
Okay.
the right of way, the real estate is very limited.
Yeah.
And what's needed actually to accommodate the additional traffic from 40B is an additional lane, left turn lane.
Yeah.
Out of Baker.
Okay.
Onto Main. And
That makes sense.
the right of way is very.
And also timing of the lights and that whole kind of configuration is gonna be important,
Yes.
which is, so you have the design of the roadway and then you have the intelligence of, sort of the lighting system out there. And Steve, you mentioned the need to, reevaluate that.
That's within the design, yes. So the contribution is really for mitigation.
Yeah.
As we get more adaptive type technology improvements, I think we can see more benefits in moving traffic through that intersection.
Other questions from the commissioners? Rachel, Jeff,
Nope, very informative.
Andrea, any questions? Any follow-up questions from the public? I don't see so. Thank you. Thank you. You have your hands full.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I think it's,
So,
everyone was excited with the Main Street project, so that's good. So we have 28 minutes left.
there you go, and Aaron.
We have two
Fosco,
agenda items.
Yes, the highway ground superintendent is going to present, this is our annual winter maintenance overview.
Weather forecast.
And, well, we've done it, tried it in the past, and Aaron, we've got a hard deadline, so you're gonna kind of walk through this.
Okay.
And then the director's report is gonna be highway ground, so Aaron will stay here and get us through to the
Okay.
finish line, so.
I have a presentation, which we'll go through.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it, but I didn't share it, hold on.
Aaron
a second.
McCloskey, Highway and Ground Superintendent. Thank you for having me present tonight. So an overview of the program. Highway and Grounds Division of Public Works oversees the winter maintenance program for the town. Go to the next slide, please. So we have a standard policy right here. It's kind of listed. I'm gonna read the policy, and that's probably the last slide that I'm gonna read, just so everyone understands. I think it summarizes our operation pretty well. To maintain a level of service that keeps Concord streets, which includes sidewalks, parking lots passable and safe for pedestrians and vehicular traffic, especially for emergency vehicles such as police, fire, ambulance, and any other vital services, as much of the time as possible within limitations imposed by extremes of nature and the resources available. Pretty self-explanatory. Every storm is different. Our approach to every storm is different. We're gonna keep the roads as open and passable. As much as we're able to, with the resources that we have. Priorities that we have, public safety is the top priority, employee safety, efficiency, fiscal responsibility, sustainability are our top initiatives, our top priorities during winter maintenance events. There's a summary there of the areas that we maintain. Some of the highlights, this is kind of, couple of highlights I typically go over every year. Largest and first event were the same event on January 6th. There's kind of a summary of those storms highlights. It was a 28-hour operation, over $100,000 spent. And the last storm event of the year, was a pretty late storm, it was April 3rd. Just over, an inch of snow, 17.5-hour duration, about $38,000 for full deployment of all of our resources. Last season, overall, we had 9 winter response events. That's low, typically on average, compared to previous years. That's de-icing and plowing events. It's total snow accumulation, just over 21 inches of snow. 2,127 overtime hours, so not including a normal working day of, Monday through Friday, extra hours. Contractors, we have contractors on staff. We track all their hours, 893 hours for them. Over 2,000 tons of snow or of road salt applied to the roadways, and winter maintenance, so not inclusive of standard operating budget within highway and grounds budgets, but just winter maintenance budget, total expenses, $614,177.44. So an overview of the next few slides that I'm going to go over. We can pass through this one. So we start our planning in the summer. Fiscal year starts July 1st, and that's when we really start, procuring services such as contracts for contractors, operators, vehicles, equipment, forecasting services, different supplies such as road salt, plow blades, vehicle parts that we might need. We start looking at all of our routes that we review, our snow plowing routes, de-icing routes, look at any optimizations we need to make, any changes to the roadway, any of the work that engineering has done that, has maybe modified a road. We need to evaluate that and incorporate that into our plan. We look at vehicle assignments, employee assignments to routes. We coordinate across departments. It's not just public works involved. CMLP provides operators, facilities department, public safety, police, fire, and the school department are all involved in our coordination. We do employee training. We send employees to winter maintenance classes, and then we hold a all hands training meeting in every October. A couple photos of some of the things. Top left is the salt shed. Salt deliveries are made, and then we move the material into the shed. And then the other 2 photos are loading some of the sand spreaders, salt spreaders into trucks. Our operations team is made up of employees and contracted operators, supervisors, mechanics. We have 22 plow routes that we run in town, multiple trucks on every route. We don't plow any or maintain any state highways, so Route 2 or 2A. Our DOT, we plow a number of private roads in town that meet specific criteria. Specifically, they have to have a pre-1955 layout. There's a home every 500 feet, and it's got to be safe for our plows to pass in order for us to qualify, or those roads to qualify for winter maintenance on private roads. We do sidewalks in town throughout Concord Center, school areas, business districts, all the public parking lots, and then we have 13 de-icing routes, includes roads, sidewalks, and parking lots.
Are you receiving compensation for doing it for private roads?
No,
No?
no. No, it's built into a bylaw. It was passed at town meeting in 1955, that allows us to expend the state statute that was adopted by a town in that year that allows funds to be expended on private roads that are open to the public.
Yeah, it is private roads open to the public is important.
And they have to meet those criteria.
Example, White
So any
Pond
new
area,
subdivision, those are not included.
Yeah.
Continuous monitoring, so we're constantly watching the weather, and we have forecasted services and subscriptions that we use. We have a RWIS system, which I'll talk about in a minute. Pre-storm assessments, we develop our response strategy. Every storm is different, so our approach to tackling every storm is different. We're constantly communicating with internally with staff, talking to our forecasters and meteorologists, and talking with other departments to coordinate. If we have, let's say, more significant snow events, so we need to coordinate with police and fire. There's other factors involved. Communicate with employees before, during operations. We do townwide inspections, so we have multiple supervisors on during winter maintenance events, and we're out physically inspecting the roads, driving the roads. We using camera systems to monitor roadways as well. We look at allocating resources, so whether we have a breakdown, equipment breaks down, when you take it off the road, we need to shift equipment around, or we might have vacancies, people that are out on for various reasons, or we have people that we need to fill those vacancies, and we have to shift people around. And then communication, we're available 24/7. Residents can call what we call the snow desk. So if the highway and grounds phone number They can call, they will talk to a Concord Public Works employee that will give them an update of kind of the operation. If they have any questions or if they have complaints, concerns, they can speak to somebody directly, and then they will get a visit from a supervisor if needed, depending on the situation. We're constantly monitoring public safety radios and then communicating with public safety dispatch and other departments. And then post-storm, we do have some customer service response and follow-ups. Should something happen, if somebody's, let's say, mailbox is damaged during the plowing event, they can contact Concord Public Works. We have a mailbox replacement policy. Details are available on the website. They can go fill out a form, and we can take care of that. A couple photos of some snow removal, snow plowing, de-icing operations. Winter fleet, 39 plow vehicles. That includes heavy and medium duty plow trucks. Plow trucks are equipped with front plows, wing plows, belly scrapers, which is essentially an underbody mounted plow. We have loaders and backhoes, so heavy equipment, salt spreaders with ground speed controllers that monitor the output and control the output of the material. Sidewalk plow machines and brine trucks, which is a liquid application of salt brine that we can apply to roads. So we have all that equipment in house that we use. When we talk about specifically fleet maintenance, is very important to make sure we have our equipment that's able to meet the needs of the operation. Regularly cleaned after every storm. We're cleaning, washing equipment and vehicles, servicing and inspecting vehicles throughout the year. We're calibrating, the spreaders during the season to make sure the output is correct, and we always have mechanics on duty during all of our events. Couple photos of some of the equipment you see here, a couple of large trucks, a couple of mid-sized trucks, some of the spreaders, newer and older ones, a salt brine, a skid on a truck, and that's a picture on the right, so one of the sidewalk plows with a snow blower attachment. RWIS system, so this is road weather information. This is probably the fifth year we've had these. And we're continuing on with this service. Currently, we have a contract with View Robotics. We have 7 of these stations that are mounted throughout town. We're able to get a real-time data. So live photo, air temperature, dew point, humidity, road surface temperature. We're able to monitor these systems remotely, either from the office or from a cell phone, and able to use that data to help us make the decisions of when to deploy resources and how to essentially optimize our treatments. So it's pretty cool technology. It is becoming more and more say standard. I'd say we are on the cutting edge still. There's a few municipalities in Massachusetts that are our size operation that have these, but not a lot. These are more found in some of the bigger cities, but they're definitely becoming more and more popular. And it's a tool that we can not only optimize our operation, but it helps us kind of make better decisions. We can reduce the amount of salt that we're using, for example, or increase it should we need to, and able to provide a safer roadway network throughout the town. Plowing and treatment. So like I said, every treatment operation is different, or every response operation is different. It might be treatment, it might be plowing, it might be both. And really, it depends on the forecast. It depends, which includes, what is the temperature of the air? What's the temperature of the road? Is it mixed precipitation? Is it all snow? What's the timing of it? What's our staffing look like? So there's no perfect operation. We're constantly adjusting. But essentially, every storm usually includes some type of a pre-treatment to put out on the roads to prevent the snow from starting to bond with the roadway. Includes, usually plowing, and then after the roads are clear, another de-icing event to make sure that any moisture that's on the road doesn't refreeze post-storm. Snow removal, so that's physically removing snow. It's accumulated from plowing. We call it the windrow, so it's like on the curb line. So between the sidewalk and the roadway, there might be snow accumulated. We'll remove that from the downtown area, so Concord Center, West Concord, and the Thoreau business area. Following large storm events, and there's a lot of factors that go into making a decision of whether or not we do that. It doesn't always happen every storm. There's a cost associated with it. Factors that, the main factors that are included: what's the accumulation look like? What's the future forecast short term look like? What's the time of the year? Is it a couple days before shopping season? Is it going to be 70 degrees the next day? It is New England, right? With pretty significant fluctuations in temperature early and later in the season. So a lot of factors go into that decision. That's something that's communicated with the director, town manager, and we make a decision of whether or not to do snow removal. We didn't do it last year. We've done it a few times, typically every year, in seasons past. Snow storage, we haul snow out of parking lots. We have 2 what we call snow dumps. Walden Street compost site and Commonwealth Ave is MCI property. We have a agreement to use the property for it, for a snow dump. If requested, we will plow snow from, the turf grass fields at, Doug White and Memorial Field. When we also have been, removing snow from some of the walkways and some of the parks for, outdoor recreation. Some of the photos, the downtown snow removal in the top left, top right, and center photo are snow plowing at athletic fields. And then the bottom two photos are also snow removal operations downtown. I think that is the fastest that I've found.
Thank you. But you got it all.
At the same speed, you're clearing our roads from snow.
Quick question.
Yes.
What are the biggest challenges for you, aside from in season, winter season? Do we plow, given what the forecast is and matching up? And what are the biggest decisions, challenges you face in doing your job well? Yeah, as you plan really for the winter.
You know, making sure we have, I got enough resources, right? We have a lot of new employees, training them, getting them up to speed, familiar with the roadway network. It's, driving in the winter of snowstorm is in a 30,000 pound truck is not the same as driving during a nice summer day in a 10,000 pound truck. So, you can't really, unless you do it, you don't know what it's like, and getting people trained real time. So it's getting people up to speed. With that, we do have a lot of experienced operators, which is great. So we're able to provide, a lot of training. I think meeting the needs of customers is always difficult. Everyone's got a different opinion on what's acceptable, right? Too much salt, not enough salt, roads aren't plowed, quickly enough, or we hear everything, right? So it's that constant trying to meet the customers' needs. At the end of the day, we follow our mission statement and try to do the best that we can to get the roadways cleared as quickly as possible. But again, we have to be fiscally responsible, environmentally responsible as well. We're not just going out there and dumping salts the whole time.
Staffing
it's
has
a balance.
been, so I hear staffing in there is
Yeah.
an issue, but have you been able to maintain the balance of contractors and town employees?
Yeah, we have contractors that typically come on board, a lot of the same contractors year after year. We have a lot of new employees. We've had a lot of recent retirees, a lot of historical knowledge and information and skills that we've left over the last few years, and we're trying to bring on, we have brought in a lot of new great employees that are learning the town, and but it takes time. It takes seasons to kind of learn that, the network and learn the job.
And the people matter, and Aaron and his team, it's very strategic. This isn't the old way we used to do it. We're using technology, leveraging the staff at the right time. The woman who picks up the snow desk has 37 years of experience, and she's still there and knows
Great.
every intersection and corner. And but yeah, there's a lot of money involved and a lot of impact to the community. So that's why we take it seriously, and we'll just like to share that.
Thanks.
So
Thank you.
Well, thank you. No, when I moved here and experienced the first winter, I was heavily impressed on how well you're doing this, I have to say. Okay,
any questions from the audience?
no
I don't
questions.
see any. We'll go to director's report.
Director's report, again, just
Yeah,
given
so
we
we're
have
gonna
just
be-
10 minutes,
You have 5
Just-
minutes.
just,
You got it.
I have to do the long walk.
I know, right.
First photo, so there's a Veterans Day event that's held in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery every year. It's a flag retirement ceremony.
Cool.
I will point out, the gentleman on the left is, Michael Lennox. He's the fleet supervisor, and
Oh, cool.
also a, sailor in the United States Navy. And he performs the flag raising, at the ceremony this year. So it was great. The woman standing next to him, Amalia, is the, interim,
No, she
CIO,
is
or
a-
she-
I don't know, she's a CIO
CIO,
right now,
right,
maybe.
C-
interim.
CIO, for the town and,
Oh, cool.
in the Air Force, so, couple photos here, headstone, cleaning, town staff, the middle photo is the War Memorial downtown, the new, plaque being installed
Mhm.
by, the town contractor. We're doing some site work downtown on the top right, and the bottom is kind of, the veil over the plaque before it was unveiled at this past Saturday's rededication ceremony for the plaque at
Included George Dugan.
Correct.
Sort of.
Yep. This is roadway maintenance. Photo on the top left is a skid steer with a milling attachment. So we're able to use that as a maintenance technique to mill out smaller patches and able to patch them and repave them in-house. So this is photos of that roadway operation. Top right is kind of it marked out, a view from the driver's seat, if you will, of the machine going down the road. And then the bottom, 2 photos are some of the end products. You can see the new patches that were paved, and the middle photo is quickly paved, a recently paved patch and the steamroller.
You'll see more of these patches around town.
Yeah, I saw a lot
The
of them,
difference is gonna be, there used to be bad potholes.
Yeah,
for-
right.
Forever.
Yes.
This
So they're
is,
good potholes.
They're not potholes.
Good patches.
traffic calming to some, yes.
So this slide's focused on solid waste recycling. We are, as you know, there's been the transition of the solid waste recycling program. It's been rolled out last month. Very successful by the numbers. We have just over 200 additional subscribers than we had the last subscription period. And these are some of the photos that highlight kind of that group and a couple of things that I wanted to note here. With this group, so as of September 30th, that was the last day of the previous subscription period. There's 3,483 customers subscribed. We notified all subscribers that wanted to resubscribe to the new program to do so by that date, October 1st. On October 2nd, we had that number dipped down to 2,956 subscribers. But as of today, the number is back up to 3,681 subscribers. So in the last month, we've added over 700 subscribers to the program, and it's great. So it's overall we're at a 5.7 increase today of subscribers over the last subscription period. So and new people are calling every day to subscribe. Carts were deployed. We had 3,550 35-gallon carts that went out and 3,650 96-gallon carts that went out and were provided to over 3,400 different addresses in town. And that was done by October 15th. With all the new subscribers, we ran out of carts. So we were working with Waste Management. New carts are in production as of next Monday. We should have them in starting to deploy a second wave to subscribers. The first week of December is our target date. And that includes 35-gallon carts and 96-gallon carts for recycling. We did receive requests and we heard from a number of residents requesting a smaller sized toter for the recycling. So it's a 96-gallon, and in previous commission meetings and discussions, we talked about, we're looking at possibility of getting a smaller cart, but we had no commitments. It was just, just discussion with the contract at the time. Since then, and hearing from the residents and some subscribers that are looking for a smaller cart, we were able to work with Waste Management and secure a 64-gallon cart for recycling that customers can request in exchange of their 96-gallon cart. For the 64-gallon cart, we're going to offer that at no fee for the exchange. We have posted a exchange request form to the town website, and we have over 60 customers that have already filled out that form and returned it to us. And once those carts come in, we'll start rolling those out to those people that have requested a smaller cart. Anyone that's called
60 out of 3,680.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. And anybody that has called since the beginning, we took their contact information, knowing that we maybe have this in process. We followed up with all of those residents individually, have a running list, and we have over 60 that have actually completed the form and submitted that back.
For
to
the
us.
64-gallon car.
Correct.
Is there, I have to ask this, is there going to be any option for anything smaller than that?
Not at this time. So the 64-gallon is the for operationally and mechanically, since we're moving to an automated system, that grab arm that they use can only be adjusted so much. So it can grab a larger cart and grab the mid-sized cart, but right now it's unable to grab a 35-gallon cart. So it's going to be different trucks, one for solid waste, one for recycling. The recycling truck will be capable of picking up the 64-gallon cart and the 96-gallon cart. And we do have all 3 sizes available out front in front of 133 Kais Road for any resident who wants to come down and take a look at them. There's quite a size difference between the 3. So we have those available for people to look at to help them make a decision on which.
I think it's just, I would encourage everyone just to try it.
Yeah.
Because it turned out that some people didn't know that these carts have wheels.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I had to explain that to, yes.
And actually are kind of quite easy to handle.
I know they are, but.
So,
I have-
and we also have to look at the numbers. We have now kind of 60 out of 3,600 that get a smaller one.
Right,
Every kind of special treatment will
I-
drive up the cost for everyone.
yeah.
Yeah, we have to have that in mind.
Yeah, I totally understand, and I have some neighbors who have a driveway that's a 1/10 of a mile long and uphill, and they're all aging, and they can't fit that card in their car, the 96, so what do I,
So what
what's
did
the
they do with
message?
the old card? Because the old card was also larger, not for a car,
Oh,
not the
it's like-
recycling,
Yeah,
the garbage.
the trash, good question. I'll
Yeah,
ask him.
I always see the arguments around the small ones,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
what are they doing with the original size? Because the
Right,
size
right,
of the
right,
64
right.
versus the old one is not a big kind of a difference in dimensions.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's, and again, the old one had no wheels. This
Yeah,
thing has
yeah, I
wheels.
know, yeah. Okay, I'll ask, I'm just dealing with neighbors who are.
Yeah, and again, everyone needs to have the understanding that every extra thing will
Yeah.
drive the cost for everyone. And that
Mhm.
was the whole purpose, to keep that under control. We are looking into, just to take it away because of the time, I asked Alan and the team to look into what are disability and ADA services. Yeah, if someone is really disabled, can't do it, lives alone on the property, what can be done to support that? Yeah,
Mhm.
seems to be a problem that probably was around even with the old program,
Mhm,
because you
mhm,
had to
right,
schlep these
right.
things anyway by
Yep.
hand a long way.
Mhm.
So, but I think this came up and say,
Mhm.
okay, if we are looking at these things, we have to acknowledge some kind of a ADA disability
Mhm.
scenario where we need to have the answer, and your team is still.
Yeah, we'll be
into
looking
this.
to do that.
Yeah.
And last question for me, is there another trash hauler option if I just opt out? Obviously, we've had great reception.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a subscription opt-in program, right? It's
Uh-huh.
not required that any
Right,
resident
right.
participate in the program. And in fact, a lot of residents opt to use a different private hauler. From what I've heard and things that I've read, I know that the COA has been working with some of the resident groups in town, and they are providing a connection between maybe other private contractors and private haulers that will provide a more customized service for folks.
So
that
who
have
should
additional
people
needs.
contact?
The COA is one option.
CO, conservation.
Council on Aging
Gotcha,
is
okay.
an option.
Yep.
We can as a town provide recommendations on specific
Okay.
contractors, so,
Okay.
but there are other private hauler options out there for folks that are
Okay,
looking
good.
at pursuing maybe a more customized service.
Okay.
And that's something that pre-existed in the old service
Sure.
as well.
That was the model,
Right,
really.
not everyone subscribed.
Okay, thank
Can we
you.
go back one, I'm sorry.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I'm attending with Justine this evening to the HDC, Historic District Commission meeting. To talk about the new big bellies. So the photo in the middle right there is our solar powered compactors that we have deployed at a number of areas in town. These are replacing the current public barrels for solid waste and recycling. We're going to the HDC tonight with an application to deploy these in the downtown Concord Center area that's covered within their jurisdiction. So these are deployed at parks in all areas in West Concord that previously had barrels. This is some field maintenance, line painting that was going on in the past month. We planted some public shade trees downtown as part of the Walden Street pedestrian improvement project, working closely with engineering group. 2 new public shade trees went in on Main Street. Water and Sewer Division worked with Highway and Grounds Division to get the engineering group to get these 2 trees installed. So there's photos of that process and some maintenance that's going on with some of the snow plowing equipment, some plows. We repaint, we scrape and repaint plows. And those are the sidewalk machines getting serviced in the middle.
That is it. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Have we missed the window for returning the smaller bins? What,
So
you can do that on
you can
Saturdays?
bring them down to the compost site,
Compost site on Saturdays?
755 Wallen Street, Saturdays from 8 to 3,
Saturday 8 to 3?
or Wednesday evening from.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you.
No? Any questions from the public? No. So we have 6 o'clock sharp.
do
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's
be running.
adjourn the meeting at
I make a
6
motion to
p.m.
adjourn the meeting.
Officially, we have to.
So we
Yeah,
have to,
second.
The motion.
Okay, so I have to do a roll call. Let's do where on my list.
Do you remember our names?
Yeah, it's tough. I like to have a list. Jeff Hesser,
Yes.
Rachel Roba,
Yes.
David DeLong,
Yes.
Andrea Solomon, Sven Weber, yes. So we herewith
Well done.
adjourned
Thank you.
Well done.
at 6:01.